Okay, so we're going to begin. This is the third lecture in this series about Lashon HaKodesh, about the Hebrew language. For those of you who were not here, in the very beginning, we spoke about how unique this language is. Not only the language, the way it is spoken, but also the letters, the alphabet. Even though most of you are familiar with the Hebrew alphabet as it is written today, there actually was an older alphabet called the Ktav Ivri, the old Hebrew script that was actually used even to write the Sefer Torah. It was the script very, very common during the time of the first temple era. And even before the temple was built, you will find it in many archaeological finds, coins, and so forth. The old Ktav Ivri, which is similar to the Phoenician script, somewhat similar to Greek, not so much in use today. The Hebrew script that we have today is the Ktav Ashuri, that as explained in the past. Ashuri does mean Assyria, but it also does mean beautiful. It is the script that came with us, accompanied us with Am Yisrael, the remnant of the Jews that came back to rebuild the second temple. It came with us from Ashur, from Babel, from that area of the world. And it does not mean that it belonged to the Assyrians, like some may claim. It is not a new script. It was always around, even from the very beginning of creation, as we will see. It simply came with us because we were given permission. When Daniel saw the handwriting on the wall, a very incredible sight, an angel writing some strange letters in a language and in a script that was not understood by anyone, no one could figure it out until Daniel was called to figure out Ma katuv po, what's written here on the wall. And he, of course, was able to interpret the meaning of the words, the letters. He knew how to put them together. And it basically spelled out the end of the Babylonian king and the Babylonian empire. But it was also a sign from heaven, Sheigia Azman, that the time has arrived to use this script once again. Even though, according to most opinions, that script was around all along. And the first Luchot, the Luchot that Hashem put together, were actually written with the alphabet as we know today. We spoke about the Hebrew handwriting script, which evolved with time. That's already something new. We spoke about the Rashi script that was not written by Rashi. Rashi did not even recognize what we call Rashi script. It is only called so because the commentary, the majority of commentaries of the Talmud and the Torah is Rashi. And in order to distinguish the font of the commentary and the font of the Torah or the Talmud, they called it a Rashi script and they used a different font. That's all it is. So we spoke about that. Last week we spoke about a very fascinating topic, how all the languages of the world came out from Lashon HaKodesh. Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue, was the first language, the language which the world was created, language which mankind first spoke in the very beginning, until the Tower of Babel incident, where the Torah records. It actually records how languages evolved initially through confusion, and it was intentional to confuse, to disperse people, and it was a punishment. There should not be unity. Unity is usually something very special and very good, but because unity at that time was used for a purpose contrary to God's wishes, Hashem says, you know what, I'm going to disperse them. I'm not going to destroy and kill them, like in the flood, because they were unified, but I'm going to mix up their languages. They're not going to be one. And ever since, language has evolved. Language has evolved in many ways. Some languages evolved into dialects. Well, dialects resemble the original language because there's not that much time or geography between them. But the more the countries and the peoples and the civilization are dispersed and distant from each other, the greater the change will be in the language and in the accent. And eventually in the vocabulary as a result of many influences, many nations that palshu, invaded a particular area and gave their words and their slang, etc., to that particular nation. I explained last week that some links have been lost and sometimes it's difficult to trace. How does Chinese resemble Lashon HaKodesh? But if you were here last week, and Bezat Hashem, you will be able to see it on the internet, I proved that every single language in the world, if you follow certain rules, you will be able to see how they all come from Lashon HaKodesh one way or another. Today, we're going to pay attention, close attention, to something that is very unique to Lashon HaKodesh. Not just the language itself, but the Mivnei HaOtiyot. As you can see, I titled the title of the lecture is Mivnei HaOtiyot V'Haroved HaPnimi, the structure of the letters and their internal layer. Internal layer meaning their meaning. There's great meaning to the reason a letter looks the way it does. In the same way that there's great meaning to why a word is composed from certain letters. Adam, the first man, the Torah tells us, gave names to animals. How did he decide to call an elephant a pil? Why a pil? A pil consisting of the letters Pei, Yud, and Lamed. So we will have tonight a glimpse, just a glimpse, because this is a very big topic. We can spend hours and hours going through every letter. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a synopsis of this incredible concept of the uniqueness of Lashon HaKodesh and the letters. For those of you who want a little bit more information on a Kabbalistic level, I did give a lecture several years ago, a whole series about the Kabbalah, and one of the last lectures of that series also was a presentation on a Kabbalistic level of the letters. So we're going to go through some of it tonight, so some of it may sound familiar to you, but nevertheless, I'm going to give you a few more introductions and a few examples of how unique Lashon HaKodesh is. One of the earliest books to have been composed is Sefer HaYetzirah. Sefer HaYetzirah is attributed to Avraham Avinu. There's another Sefer Raziel HaMalach attributed to Adam HaRishon, to the first man. Attributed meaning that he learned it, that he put it together, that it was dictated to him from the Malachim. Either way, it is attributed to Avraham Avinu, Sefer Yetzirah. Yetzirah meaning the creation of the world. A lot of secrets, a lot of the mysteries of creation itself are found in this very brief book that most people will not understand. It's a very difficult book to understand. It definitely delves into Kabbalah. But we do find quotes, many quotes about letters. We find that the Chaf Bet Otiyot, that the 22 letters with which we write our Hebrew, our Lashon HaKodesh, the world was actually created with them. Wow, that's a powerful statement to say, the world created through 22 letters. Yes, the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet have tremendous depth and meaning and spiritual powers. And as the Sefer Yetzirah says, every letter is an even, it's like a stone. And every word is a bait, is a house. And with stones, you build a house. Each one has a very, very special meaning. And depending on the position of that letter in the word, it may have a special function. So we have meaning and we have function. Function we may call it, as we call it in Hebrew, a pe'ulah, an action. Even though in the English language you have verbs, adjectives, nouns, and so forth, and so do you in almost any language. Nevertheless, even if it's a noun, there's something in that word that creates that particular idea or action, depending on the letters that you use. You can have all similar letters in two words, but if you change the order, you've changed the action that's happening to a particular object or to a particular concept. Remember, for those of you who were here a couple weeks ago, I did say that all the other languages in the world don't have this, because they are heskemiyot. They are languages that, and there has been an agreement on what to call things, more or less. Even though much of the vocabulary has evolved from many generations in the past, there have been a lot of words that were added, and they are all agreed upon. People agreed upon somehow to call this light bulbs, right? For some reason, especially all the new technology, a hard drive, somebody came up and it stuck. Right? So there are words, many words, that were composed by human beings. That's all in the other languages. And the same is true with their Aleph Bet, with their ABC. Their ABC, somebody went ahead and decided, this is what I'm going to call, or this is how I'm going to write A, B, and C, like the Korean alphabet, which is pretty new, relatively new. a king decided that this is going to be our new alphabet. And the same is true with many other alphabets in the world that were recently decided upon what they should be. You have the Persian language, you have the Turkish language, you have the Pashto language, you have the Urdu language. They're all very different. They all use the Arabic script, even though there's different letters and sounds in Persian that don't exist in Arabic. Nevertheless, they're still using a particular script that they decided upon, or it was forced upon them not too long ago. All these scripts, what they have in common is that they have been agreed upon. Whereas Lashon HaKodesh, the letters that are being used today, the Ktav HaAshuri, is very, very unique. Nothing like it. Every little detail in those letters is very important. As I pointed out to you a couple of weeks ago, even the tagin, even the little kots of the yud, even the little dot, the points, the crowns of the letters have great significance. The Midrash says that Betzalel, who knew how to put together these letters, was able to use his knowledge of the letters to create the Mishkan. And that's what this quote of Sefer Yetzirah pretty much says. 22 אותיות חקקן, חצבן, שקלן, והמירן, צירפן, וצר בהן נפש כל היצור ונפש כל העתיד לצור. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created everything basically, and formed and shaped and assembled everything in this universe and that which will be eventually to come through the 22 letters. In other words, somehow through the combination of the letters, worlds can be formed. Betzalel, knowing this knowledge, having access to this knowledge, was able to use it to build the Mishkan. We also find that in every part of creation, there's great uniformity, wisdom, harmony, all of this testifying to the fact that they were created. Right? If one honestly and open-minded analyzes everything in creation from the eye is an incredible organ. Incredible. If you only knew what it looked like the inside. Even Darwin had a problem understanding how it came about by itself through a Big Bang or evolution. It's incredible. One of the most amazing, right, organs in the human body. Everything came about as a result of some sort of combination of letters. As we will, B'ezrat Hashem, hopefully get to the letter Ayin. Why is an Ayin called an Ayin? B'ezrat Hashem, maybe we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, it's important to remember, as you can see it, I did not have time to translate everything into English, but in the same way that everything in this world has or demonstrates incredible wisdom and intelligence, so does Lashon HaKodesh. And the reason why it's called Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue, is not only because we write things that are holy in these letters, but because it's very, very special. As I've pointed out to you, the Torah itself says, Lezoti kare isha, ki mi ish lukacha. This is called a woman because she comes from man. There are many words in the Torah that testify that the world is created in this language. Adam is from Adamah. And I'm going to give you a very interesting example about why Adam is called Adam. But what is Adam? A man, a human being. Why? Because he comes from Adamah. And the same is with Adam's son Shet. Right? Chava. Em Kol Chai. All of these names that you're seeing in the Torah in the very beginning of creation testify that the Torah is being given in Lashon HaKodesh, that the world is being created in Lashon HaKodesh. And there's something in the word, of course, that tells you some hidden meaning about what this is. Because somehow Adam is related to Adamah. The Baal HaTanya says something very interesting. The Baal HaTanya, if you can read the Hebrew, says that all the letters with which the heaven and earth were created and everything else in the world nourishes. The entire world nourishes from these letters. In other words, the letters give nourishment to everything that is in existence. And if these letters that give nourishment to everything in existence, think about the nucleus of everything being some sort of letter. If they would be removed, everything would cease to exist. Everything would cease to exist. And he goes on to explain what I just said in the name of the Midrash about Betzalel. Whoever knows, whoever delves deeply into understanding the spiritual powers behind the combination of letters is able to create or to form incredible worlds, all kinds of things in this world. If you were only to know, Kabbalistically speaking, for those of you who may have heard about the golem of Prague, a golem is a human being without a neshama. Looks like every one of us, more or less, but without the ability of speech, because he has no neshama. Famous stories with the golem of Prague. During the time there was tremendous blood libels in Czechoslovakia, the golem of Prague was used, created by the Maharal of Prague, to defend the Jewish community. That is our tradition, and supposedly there's a statue of him in whoever of you visits Prague, you can see a statue of him. According to our tradition, the remains of this golem, which today is a mound or pile of earth, without necessarily the form of a human being, is in the attic of the Alt Neu Shul, of the shul that was used by the Maharal in Prague, that is still in existence till this very day in the city of Prague. People who attempted to go up the stairs to the attic to take a peek at this creation got scared in the last moment and went out. But it's still there. Eventually that golem was dissolved. In other words, the Maharal of Prague took off the name of Hashem that he had placed on him while to make him alive. And once he removed it, it fell apart. Anyway, just a quick example of what great Kabbalists were capable of doing using names of Kabbalah and using all kinds of combinations of letters. Okay, let's quickly go to what happened in Bavel. We spoke about the confusion that occurred in Bavel. What exactly occurred? What was the exact step that brought about a confusion of languages? So Hashem uses the word naval. Nevala, naval is from the same source of livlol, to mix up. Hashem's intention over there is let's mix up their tongues so they should not understand each other's language. So Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch says the reason this word is used is perhaps to describe a flower that withers. Perach shenovel. What happens to a flower that withers? Why does it wither? It somehow has lost its connection to the source, to the ground, to the nutrients. It no longer is able to be alive as it was before, and it withers. Everybody know here what the word to wither is, right? The flower dries up. Originally, there was Lashon HaKodesh. That was the language. That language inspired other languages. But somehow, that particular incident took away most of the nourishment of all the other vocabularies in the world, of all the speech of all these other civilizations. And as a result of that, all of a sudden, or slowly but surely, their language started changing, their accents started changing. There is no longer a connection to the original language. And remember, that original language has so much meaning and depth. And slowly but surely, the words are losing their power, their meaning, because they're not being nourished. They're withering. They're no longer connected. So Hashem is disconnecting the source, and therefore everything else is just haphazardly or somehow forming and evolving in all kinds of ways. However, I find that Rav Tzadok HaKohen, if you can read it further down, in the Sefer Pri Tzadik, on the pasuk, Al kol kli yutzar alayich lo yitzlach v'chol lashon takum mitach lamishpat arshi, he mentions tongues, the tongues that will rise against us, meaning the nations that will rise against us, we will accuse them, we will find them all guilty, they will not succeed against us. V'romemtanu mikol lashon, because Hashem elevated us above all the tongues. And what he means by that is as follows. He says that even though it's true, what we just said, that all the language has somehow become so distant from Lashon HaKodesh, we have become elevated above them, above the rest of them. We have preserved the sanctity of the language. All the other languages, nevertheless, still have something of our language. So even though I told you last week how you can see the link, or you can see the connection if you trace them, Rav Tzadok HaKohen says not only that, you can actually see in every language, according to him, a couple words, at least one or two or more, real words from Hebrew, not changed. Changed, there are many, perhaps. You will find at least one or two words, as he explains. Our Lashon has been elevated, but they're still dependent. If there would not be one word, they would die. In other words, in order for them to continue to be alive, their life is taken or nourishes from Lashon HaKodesh at least through one or two words. Just an interesting commentary that I wanted to share with you, that there's still some connection. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to go through every letter of the alphabet. And we're going to see several ideas. We're going to see that in Lashon HaKodesh there's something called a shoresh, a root. So there's in every language, more or less. And most shorashim in Lashon HaKodesh are composed of 3 letters. Some are 2, some are perhaps more. The first letter is called the mafteach, it's the key. It's very important to see who's in first position. That will tell us a lot about this word. It will tell us about the nucleus of this word, about the mafteach, the key. What's about to happen? What are we introducing? That's the mafteach. The next 2 letters are going to be called, or actually the first 2 letters will be called the gar'in, the nucleus. They do most of the action. The third letter is an additional letter that tells us how it happens. And actually, if you follow English grammar, there's a verb, there's an adverb, there's an adjective. And you can see what happens to the object. What's happening to it, you see it usually in the verb, right? The action is happening through the verb. It's fully described more through the adjectives and so forth. So in the same thing here in the Hebrew, you can see a concept, an idea, in 3 letters. Why is it therefore called this particular word? What's happening to it? What's involved? So before we go to every letter of the alphabet, I'm just going to give you a quick example. Look at the word Adam. All right. Everybody can see it now, right? Adam, a human being, man, consists of 3 letters. A quick example. Rabbis tell us, Shlosha shutafim ba'adam, there are 3 partners in the creation of every human being, man or woman. HaKadosh Baruch Hu being one, and the parents, the father and the mother. Each one of the parents contributes something to the physical formation of the child, whether it's the blood, the sinews, the coloration, and so forth, right? That's why everybody fights. No, it looks like him, it looks like her, it looks like him, it looks like her. Oh, it looks like the grandfather, right? It looks like both, somehow they both contributed. Don't argue. As Baruch Hashem, the child is healthy. Makes no difference who or she or he looks like. They both contributed. But don't forget there's a third partner. Without him, the child wouldn't be alive. Hashem contributes all the senses. Besides the neshama, the soul, which makes him alive, gives him the ability of speech, all the senses. When a human being dies, why did he die? Hashem took away his share. And he left a share of the parents in the grave. That's exactly what happens. So we have 3 partners, and see how this comes together in the word Adam. Adam, as we said before, is Adama, from earth. But if you look closely at the word Adam, you recognize another word there in Hebrew, if you know a little bit of Hebrew, and that's dam. A great deal of man is blood. Without blood, there's no life. Right? So Aleph stands for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Aleph is one. It always is the first. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Dam represents the parents who contributed that physical part of him. What's the gematria, the numerical value of Dam? 44. Av, father, Aleph Bet is 3. Em, mother, is 41. 41 and 3 is 44. You see? So we've spoken about the layer of gematria, numerical values, which we'll talk a little bit about it now too. The Torah definitely has meaning. If you look at the various layers, including numbers or the equivalent of a particular word in its numerical value. A quick example of a word that appears to be a simple word, but it's not so simple after all. It consists of some letters for some reason. It has in it embedded, perhaps, as a remez at least, as a hint, insinuated, how man is composed of. And the gematria is there too. Right? Another quick, important idea that I'm presenting now that you will hopefully be able to understand it better later on. I put together a whole bunch of words here. To most of you it means nothing. There should be about 10. Does anybody see anything in this list that draws your attention? Take a moment to look at this list. And what do you think when you see this list? What do you see? What do these words have in common?
A lot of pays.
A lot of doubles. Yes, that's right. A lot of doubles. Patzatz, parar, galgal, dirder, pishpesh, ligleg, dovev, mishesh, pilel, sovev. You see the doubles, whether it's a bet or a pay. Actually, no, we don't have a double. Yeah, pay or lamed or reish or tzaddik in the beginning. I gave you this list right now because it will help you understand later on. One of the rules that is apparent, it wasn't told to us, but it is apparent when looking at words, is that when you see doubles, there is double action. If you learn Spanish, you have to be very careful how you pronounce an R in a double R. Give you a word with one R. Pero. Pero means but. However. But perro means a dog. Now in Arabic, you have to be careful also in the pronunciation of your letters. If you say kalb, it's a dog. If you say qalb, it's a heart. So if you want to tell somebody with all my heart, you better pronounce it right. Otherwise, he'll think you're telling it with all your dog. Anyway, pronunciation is important. Here, what is apparent, one of the rules, keep this in mind, that anytime you have a double, it's like a dagesh in Lashon HaKodesh, dagesh meaning dot. Anytime you see a dot in any letter in Lashon HaKodesh, it's for greater emphasis. It's pronounced heavier, harder. So all these words, as a result of the doubling of a particular letter, means the action is being intensified. So let's take a look at the first word, patzatz. Anybody know what does that have to do with anything? What word is that? Ptzatza, bomb. What happens with the bomb when a bomb explodes? What's the reaction or the result? Pieces, shrapnel. So we're going to find out later on that the combination of pei and tzaddik seems to open something up. But when you add a double tzaddik, it opens up a lot. You see? Same thing with any one of these. There's an action being performed by the letters, but when you double it, the action is either continuous or intensified. So far, so good? Okay. So now we're ready to go. I'm going to come back to the last example later on. Now we're ready to go to the real PowerPoint of the letters. Okay, I'm going to go quickly through this because this is part of the lecture on the Kabbalah. The various layers that one finds in the Torah that we spoke about in the past. Okay, first letter in the alphabet. Everybody see it? Aleph. It's unique. The way it is written, its shape. It's called Aleph. There's a reason why it's called Aleph. Its numerical value is 1. What does Aleph mean? Aluf, le'alef, le'lamed. It means a master. It means to teach. In other words, sometimes you will find a letter or a word that has more than one meaning. Nevertheless, because their roots are the same, their meanings are similar. So this has a name, and the name is important too. Why is this called Aleph? It's a teacher. The essence, one can go on explaining the essence of every letter for a long time, but this is just briefly. The essence of the letter Aleph is it's something spiritual. It's the first, it's the nucleus, it's internal, it's the root, the makor. It's the mahut, it's the essence of something. When you find an aleph, again, depending on the position of the word, it's very important where the aleph is. But nevertheless, the aleph represents something spiritual, something internal, the root of a particular idea. Here are some letters, some words that have an aleph. Aluf, Adon, Av, Em, Esh, Or, and Adam. Master, father, mother, fire, light, human being. They all begin with an aleph. That means there's something about all these words plus additional words that begin with an aleph that is similar. Something about the essence of something. Whether it's the essence of the human being being a father, a male or a female. Whether it's a master being the essence or the most important, right? What's a master? The essence, the important, the first, in charge, in command. You see how all these relate? Slightly different, but similar. Esh being an element, one of the first elements, an important element. And how is it formed? From the letters Daled, Vav, Yud, equaling 26. Two Yuds, I'm sorry. Two Yuds, well, it depends how you write it. Two Yuds and a Vav. Equaling 26, which is Hashem Hashem. Okay, next letter. Bet. Bet. What's bet? Anybody know a word that sounds like bet? Bait. Right? Number is 2. It represents a house. And for those of you who remember the lecture on the script, we spoke about the hieroglyphics or the Chinese pictograms, how they represent an idea or a concept or an object. Well, this represents a house in some ways. At least it has a roof. And therefore, when you see bet, but depending on the position of the word, it will have the action of building or forming a shape, something more physical, or something that has to do with duality, also internal, depending on where it is in the word. Here's some examples of words beginning with a bet. A son. A son, yes. A son is built. The father builds a child. A ben or a bat is something that has been formed and built, that has come from a parent. Bechor, being the firstborn. Bina, understanding, binyan, a structure, bria, creation, bracha, a blessing. All of these having the letter B or bet, meaning something is being built, something is taking shape, or something that has to do with duality as well. They're of course slightly different. Why are they different? Because there's more than one letter. Once you add the second letter and then the third letter, the whole thing changes drastically. But what they will have in common is something about the first letter, which is the essence, in this case the mafteach, as we said, the key of the word, which of course in this case will have something to do with building or forming something, which Bria, creation, is all about too. Binyan, a structure. What does it look like? As I said, the tzura shel shnei gagim, 2 roofs. Okay, Gimel. I'm going through it a little bit quickly because I'd like to cover all of them. Gimel, as it's called, Mispar Shalosh, number 3. What does it do? What's the action? Why is it called Gimel? Gemul, which means to reward or to act or to give something. And anytime you see it, there's some kind of movement. Look at how it looks like 2 legs walking. Rabbis tell us there's action here. There's already movement. We began with structure. We began with something static and unique and first. Now we're beginning the action, the movement. Gimel begins to move and to act. Okay? To actually do something. Not a house, right? But to move. And you see the Gimel as an action in movement. You see it also when something involves going up and elevating. Here are some words that begin with a Gimel, a roof. Gadol, big. Gvul, boundary. Gesher, which is a bridge. Gibor, strong. Geder, a fence. Gezel, stealing. A little bit hard perhaps for you to figure out what they all have in common, right? But there's definitely something being elevated here, for sure. Elevated. The roof is elevated, the bridge is elevated. The fence is elevating, but the fence is also fencing off. That's what a dalet in the Geder does. It fences off. So you have a gimel with a dalet which combine to form some sort of elevated partition. And Gesher does something else. Gvul is a boundary because it has a bet, some sort of structure delimiting. Gadol has a gimel. It also has a lamed, it has a dalet. It therefore is something very, very grand. So you see, for the most part, certain concepts common to all these words that have to do with some sort of either movement or something elevating a particular object. What does it look like? The shape is, the rabbis tell us, is the shape of a human being walking. Or it could be also a vav or a zayin together with a yud, which also Kabbalistically has some meaning why it's composed of certain letters. Let's go to Dalet, as it's called. Number 4, Dalet is called Dalet because it's poor. Dalut, dalim. It restricts, it instead of elevating, it puts down, it constricts, it diminishes, and it makes something smaller. That's the effect of the dalet. A door, what does a door do? A door limits, constricts, closes, right? Here's some words with dalet. A poor man who's limited in his finances. A delet, a derech, a way, a path is limited to this particular road, right? Devek, glue. Dak, thin, not expansive. Da'ag, worried, also about something in particular that he's focused on. Din, judgment, very strict. You see how all this dalet is strict, constricting, limiting, each one in a little bit different way. And what does the dalet look like? Like a door. Tzura shel delet. Let's go to Hey. The letter Hey, number 5. Hey is haba'ah. Haba'ah means an expression. There's something open about the Hey. It expresses, it opens up. But it's not the open up of the Pei, as we will see. It's a kind of, it's more called a revelation. There's a difference between revelation and opening. This one is more revelation. Revelation, as seen in the following words. Head, the echo. Something is revealed. Something is heard. The pronunciation. Halel, to praise. Habet, to view. Haker, to recognize. Hadar, beauty, hod, and so forth. What's all of these have to do in common? There's something being observed or revealed, something in the open something done out loud, because that's what a praise is, opening your mouth and praising and elevating the words, pronouncing them. And it looks like a dalet with a yud. Vav. Number 6 is a connecting. Vav are called hooks in the Torah. They're connectors. It's a connection, it's a continuation, and there's something to do with life. Life as a continuity. Veset, vetek, vaad, vikuach, vidui, veshet, vlad. There's some continuity in these words, something being continued, something being done for a while, like vidui, a confession, words being expressed. Veshet, which is the food pipe through which the food is going down. It's something long and connected. Vlad is a fetus which is connected to the mother's womb. So there's something in Vav that connects to something else. Its shape is like a straight line. Okay, Zayin. Number 7. Zayin is nourishment. You find this letter together with nourishment, with the will, with mezaveg, in other words, to combine two people, as in marriage, to be mashpia, to contribute, to give. Look at the words with the beginning with the zayin, of course. Zivug, your soulmate, your other half. Zerem, a flow. Zachar, a male. Male because the male gives to the female. Zeroa, which could be either the arm or something. Zerat, the seed. Znut, zera, ze'aka, a scream that is let out. And the shape of the zayin is a crown over a vav, which looks like a zayin, which is also the word for a arm. In other words, a weapon. Chet, number 8, is called chet because of life, hayut. This is the action of receiving, the opposite of zayin. Zayin gives, chet receives and connects and desires. So you find the letter chet in the beginning of the word with words that are associated with these actions. Chaver, a friend who wants to have a friend. Chafetz or chefetz, the object of wanting or desiring. Chacham, desiring of something called knowledge. Chaim, of life. Cheder, a room. Cherut, freedom. Cherev, a weapon. Something that has to do with either the desire to receive, to connect, and the shape of the chet has either two vavim or a vav and zayin with a little head on top, a little bracket on top. Tet, number 9, like tit, like lead, like a clay. It usually has to do with death, destruction, covering up the end of something or something falling deep. As you will find, taval, to immerse, taraf, to grab by force, tameh, unclean, or tahor, pure. Look at how you have the opposites here, tameh and tahor, beginning with the exact same letter, but having a totally opposite action because of the other letters being different. But the first letter accomplishing something similar, totally enveloping the person, either with tum'ah or with tahara. Tabach, to slaughter, tahan, to grind, to put an end to something the way it was in its original shape. And tov, even though we said it talks about death, you have the word tov, also with tet, which also is something to do with something being finished, something being complete, something being done with in a perfect way, not in a bad way. So you can have opposite words and ideas depending on the rest of the letters of the word. And the shape of the tet is a kaf with a vav or a zayin. Okay, yud. Yud is number 10. Yud is yesod. It stands for foundation. You will find it with initiative, with something that grows, also completion, and something fundamental. So look at the following words that begin with the yud. Yad is a hand. You have a yerech, yabam, yeled, a child, yafeh, yatzar, yada, something to do with either with initiative or with growth, as in yeled, and as in hand that grow and finish, yetzer. And of course it's a little dot, nekuda rishona. Next, kaf. Kaf is 20, looks like the hand, the palm, kaf hayad, the palm of the hand. Words that have to do with kaf deal with creating, forming, or compelling, closing, and covering up. So you find keli, something that contains and covers the contents of what it has. A chair, kiseh, kaftor, a button, a kerem, a vineyard, to right, a shoulder, and strength. It's not too apparent just from this list what the kaf is in each one of them, but if you pay close attention to the action of what is being done, to write, you're forming something, you're forming letters and words, right? And the kiseh and the kli, also there's something formed about him in a particular shape to accommodate somebody to sit on, okay? And the same with the other letters. And it's shaped like a kli kibul, like either like a hand or like a vessel receiving something, because that's the action that is happening with the kaf, at least in the beginning of the word. Then you have a lamed, which is 30. To learn, the lamed, you will find it with giving birth, with growing, with addition and multiplying, with gathering, and with combining. Similar verbs, similar actions. Here are some words. The levush, the garment. Leida, birth, which is to give birth. Lashon, a language. Vocabulary, words being composed. Lev, the heart. Leket, to gather. And lachad and leom. These are all words that have the lamed in common. In other words, some action to do with either the growth of a nation, the giving birth of something, the gathering, like lelaket, which is also gathering and growing, is very similar because you will have a larger amount as a result of what you're gathering. And the shape of the lamed is a kaf with a vav on top of it. Mem. Number 40, mime is basically mem is mime, water. And you will find the mem also delimiting or stopping or holding back. So in the following list of words, moed, a holiday, because it is a certain time of the year. It stops. You stop there to celebrate the holiday. Machane, a camp. Melech, mum, a defect, a blemish. Makkah, a wound. Makom, a place. Maleh, full. All basically referring to a particular spot, a delimited place, something that has happened in a particular area. And the mem looks like a kaf with a vav on its side. Nun. Number 50, nun is fish, another word for fish. You have nofel, falling, mitnatek, disconnected, humbling, separation, and some movement. Separation and movement are alike. Disconnecting is also the same. Falling is also the same. Falling, disconnecting, humbling. So you will find the following words that have to do with those actions. A neder, a nega, nevela, nafal, neshama, navi, a prophet, a nes, a miracle. A miracle, what does a miracle have to do with this? Well, a miracle is something completely separate, completely apart from the laws of nature, right? And so is neder, neder being a promise, being something that is humbling or limiting in a way a person by restricting him, by he having to keep his word. A nega, which is a form of leprosy, which also makes him apart. He has to keep apart. And it looks like zayin or vav within another vav. Samach, number 60, somech, to give support. You will see it with organization, with support, and with surrounding something. So here are some words. Seder, organization. It's organized, it's surrounded, it's a circle, right? It carries Saval sovev, it surrounds, soger, it encloses. A sus, a horse, for some reason has the samach twice in it. Why? Anybody can figure this one out? Okay, you learned the rules, you saw the meaning, I want you to figure out sus. Okay? Sus, a horse. Why does a sus have two samachs? Read the bottom of what action is happening here with the samach, and you tell me what does sus have to do with the samach. What's that? That's right. It's a tomech. It's a support. It carries. Samach is a carrier. It supports. You see it in the sus? It has two of it. Don't ask me why gamal doesn't have a samach. A camel is something else. Anybody know what a camel has? What is a camel? What's so special about a camel? Huh? Water? A lot of water, right? Which letter of the gamal is water? We just saw it. Wow, you're listening. Baruch Hashem. Exactly. Remember the mime, the mem the mime? It has a lot of water. It has to have it when it's going in the desert. And it has a gimel. What was the gimel? A lot more than the horse. And a lamed? Lamed is a big neck too. So you see, you can figure it out yourself. Rabbis tell us if you really, really knew how the letters work, you can make words yourself. You would be able to know. This is called a cat, a hatul, just because of how it behaves. Right? You would be able to figure out. You can see it. It's easy. Okay, the shape of a samach is like a kaf with a vav, but it's enclosed. Ein. We talked about the eye. Ein, 70. Ein. What's ein? It's the eye, but it's also a spring, a well. What comes out of your eye? Tears, water. And the eye also absorbs all the light that is sent through the optic nerve to the brain. So there's a lot going on in an ein. Very important letter. Also represents aliyah. It also represents some action of going up. Ozer and itchaskut. These are additional actions that I added on my own. That we find that it tends to help, it tends to assist, it tends to strengthen something whenever it is found. Look at the word eved, how he works and how he assists. Ani, ashir, that's interesting. A poor man and a rich man both have an ayn. Why is that? Oh. What's so special about an ashir? Now look at the bottom letters. Ashir has an ayn there. Now again, there could be other meanings. This is just an example of some of the actions that I put together. An ayn also has something to do with aliyah, growing, but not growing physically necessarily. That we already saw before with other letters. It has to do with growing financially, right? But that's good for ashir. Ani has not grown, but what does ani do? What does he do? He raises his voice. He asks for money. Right? So there is a raising. There's something raising, but not money. His voice. So you could have the same kind of action meaning something else depending on the rest of the letters. An etz, a tree. Avon, a sin, which unfortunately is also something that has grown as a result of some action. Anava is humbleness, which is the opposite of growth. It has an ayn. So what does that have to do with humbleness? But that's the greatness of man when he's really humble, not when he's a big shot. Yeah, but anyway, these are just examples of some of the actions, and there's all kinds of ideas going on in every word, because the word is a word. It's a combination of letters. You have in anava, you have an ayn with a nun, which completely changes the whole idea of the ayn. It modifies the ayn. So you can't just say, well, where is it growing exactly? Well, you have to look at the whole word. And the shape of the ayn is a yud or nun together with a zayin connected. Pei. Pei is 80. Pei is a mouth. What does the pei do? It opens. Opens could be opening a door, or poretz. It could break open. It could scatter, it could liberate, and it could resolve. Because what is a resolution? An opening of a problem, resolving it, right? Clarifying it. Here's some words. Peleg, to divide up. Panim is face. It opens up. It shows itself. Petza, a wound that opened up. A perach, a flower that blossomed. Para, to uncover the hair. Patach, to open the door. Porek, to unload. Something of an action that is opening up or unloading or just breaking open. And the pei looks like a kaf together with a yud. For Kabbalistic reasons, the shape of the letters is more Kabbalistic, of why it combines certain letters to form itself. Then we have a tzaddik, as it's called, tzadi 90, tzedek, justice. You will find the actions being restrictive, but also being matzniya, hiding and limiting in a different way. The different letters have similarities in their actions, but in a different way. So tzaddik will be found in tzad, a side, tzedek, justice. It limits things to a particular law. Tzom is fasting because you're limiting yourself from food, right? And the same with all the other words, there's some limitation in them or restriction. The tzaddik looks like a yud with a nun or a zayin. Then we have kuf. Kuf is 100. Hekef, to surround. You will find the actions of kuf involving itkarvut, something close, bringing something close, or an end, or a purchase. So you have it in the word ketz, the end. Kabel, to receive. It has come to its destination. The guy, he received it in his hands. Kever, beginning with a kuf. It's on the ground, right? It's the end. It has acquired the body or something. Kadosh, being holy, which also has to do with closeness, being closer to Hashem. Katan, small. What does small have to do with getting close? Well, he's closer to the ground. Kriya and kesher, connection. Okay, it looks like a kaf with a nun. A nun pishutain, it was a long nun. Reish. Reish is 200. Rosh, the head. Actions associated with the Reish is multiplication. Ram, high, head, maturity, concentration. So you find the Reish with Rishon being first, being the top, being the head. Rasha, wicked, because there is ribui, there's a lot of bad or evil action. Ra, also evil in itself, for what it represents, for the intensity of something which is bad. But you also have rachamim, because the resh has taken on a het and a mem, which has completely modified the idea of the resh. But it is an intensification of a good act, of pity and compassion. But you have the resh there. But you have the resh doing something positive. Ratz, you have the intensification of running, not just walking. Rotzeach and Rachil. Rachil is speaking Lashon Hara, being a journalist, finding out all the bad news and spreading the gossip. Rachil, he's doing something. He's moving around. He's multiplying the words. And it looks like a kaf without the bottom igul, without being rounded. Two more letters. We have the shin or sin, which represents the number 300. It's the teeth, shinaim, shin. Whenever you see it, it has to do with change, crossing over, liberating, and you will find it in the word shaliach, messenger. There's a change, there's something going from here to there. Sheker, which is a change. Shabbat, which is a change of the rest of the week. Shochat, which is a bribe deviating from the truth. Shalom, having something also to do with liberating or solving a situation where there is a change for the better. Simcha, happiness, which is also a change from the status quo in a different way. Shegaga, doing something unintentionally and not planned, which involved a change or something that was not anticipated. And the shin is very interesting. It has three heads of a vav, yud, and a zayin with a foundation. And finally, the last letter is a taf. Mispar 400. Taf is a siman. It's a sign. And as a first letter, it is the end or the completion or something being complete, the limiting, unifying. And you will find it in the word tamim, which is tmimut, and it was complete, Taken, to fix, to make it complete. Torah, which is complete. A whole set of laws. Complete set of laws. Tamid, constant. Toshav, an inhabitant. He's there always, all the time. Teomim, twins, which is unifying them. And a tchum, which also has a taf as a boundary. The shape of the taf is a dalet with a vav upside down. Now, before we finish, I want to do what I promised I would do for the next 5-10 minutes or so, and tell you how were these letters and vowels pronounced originally, more or less. So real quickly, if you have any idea, if you want to have an idea, you know, there's Ashkenaz, there's Sephardim, there's Temanim. We're going to get to this PowerPoint in a minute. Before we get to that, I just want to tell you, pronunciation of the letters has changed over time. Why? Because of diaspora. We've been exposed to other languages, to Goyim, and there's no way out of it. Americans are going to say Achashverosh. They don't know how to say Achashverosh. They cannot pronounce the Reish. Neither can the Japanese easily pronounce certain letters. Persian people also have a problem pronouncing certain letters. Arabic people also have a problem pronouncing the Pe. They tell you, give me a little piece of Bita. They can't say Pita. So you're going to have Jewish people who are going to absorb, unfortunately, the accent of the language, and they're going to pronounce or mispronounce the letters of the original language, especially those who went from Galut to Galut. Who did not move around so much? The Yemenites. So therefore, who's going to have the most accurate pronunciation since Beit Rishon? The Temanim. They have to. But they were also amongst the Arabs, but they didn't move around. So it's possible, they too, a little bit, but not as much. So do we know 100% original pronunciation? Not 100%, but 98% we do. Because we know what everybody has agreed on. We know which languages used to know Lashon HaKodesh when Lashon HaKodesh was in use, and they transliterated words from Lashon HaKodesh into their language, in their letters and their words, so we know more or less what sounds they used. We know from Arabic certain sounds because that was close to Lashon HaKodesh, so if you interpolate everything together, you're going to get very close to what the sounds were. So Aleph is easy. Everybody agrees on Aleph, right? Aleph is A. Be is Be. Be without a dot is a V. Not if you're from the Syrian communities of Aleppo and Haleb and Damascus. Why? Because there's no V in Arabic. Because there's no V in Arabic, a lot of them say Abib, spring, Babel. Even though they might say the bet without a dot, it's not 100% correct. Every letter in Lashon HaKodesh and every sound is completely unique and different. So a bet without a dot is a V. A gimel. What's a gimel? Well, most Jewish communities say a gimel with a dot, a gimel. G. A gimel without a dot is, according to everybody, except for Ashkenazim and some Sephardim, is a gimel. Re. As in Farsi. Re. As in Arabic. Re. And as the French would say, there are Paris, even though it's an R. It's a Re sound. It's close to the G, you just remove the dot. Any letter that you remove the dot has to be close. So the Be is V, the G, R. D, a dalet without the dot, is the. That's the only way you can say Hashem Echad, by pronouncing it long, by saying Echad. Who can say a TH, the sound very well? American speakers. For somehow, they're lucky with this one. Because it exists in the English language. You bring an Israeli to this country, he'll tell you, what is this? What is this? He cannot say this. What is this? He can't. Or this. He cannot say this. TH, the, is in very few languages. Arabic has it. Shu, hada. The Farsi don't have it. So the Farsi letter, the, is pronounced either like a da or za. Right? No? How do you pronounce the za, the dalet, with a dot on top? You see? You can't say the. So either they do it as a da or a the. Okay, next one. Hey. Hey, is everybody in agreement? Huh? Huh? Good, so far. Huh? Everybody has an H. Most languages have an H. But the Russians had a problem with the hey. They don't have a hey. Ukrainian has a H. a hey. Russian doesn't have it. So you will find the name Kagan in Russian. Did you hear Zalman? Kagan? They don't have a Kahan. So they Kagan, Kaganov. They can't say ha. Russians have a problem with the H, but everybody else has an H. Next one, Vav. You think Vav is V? We just had a V. It's called Vet. You can't have two sounds alike. Guess what? Vav is W. Wow. Yeah, wow, like wow in English. Wow. So Americans have no problems with it, but Europeans, when they come here, they have a problem. What do you want from me? They can't say what, right? Va. Because there's no W in European languages. So there's va. What do you want, right? Whether you're Hungarian or Polish, you can't say a W. So they lost the W. The W was lost. English has it, right? English has no problem. Arabic has it. So many Sephardim, but not all, would still say a W. Zayin is easy. Everybody has a Z. Zayin, everybody, right? Het is a problem. As I pointed out a week ago, the otiot agroniot, the guttural sounds, aleph, het, ein, hey, are hard for some people to pronounce. So the het is one of the hardest, especially het and ein. Het is lost even from the Farsi-speaking people. They have no het even though they have the Arabic letter. It's, how do you pronounce het in Farsi? Well, how do you pronounce chaf? Che. Everything is che. Whether it's che or whether it's with the dot on top. Is it the same thing? Huh? In Farsi, come on. No? Che, che? It's all che. There's no he. There's no such sound. It's the same Arabic letter, but there's no het. There is hey, right? But hasht, right? There is hey, but there's no het. Everything is che or he. Okay, so het is hard. Ashkenazim Jews don't know how to make a het. Sephardim, they lived amongst Arab lands. They speak Arabic, perfect. Next one, tat, very hard sound to make. Tat doesn't exist in any language except in Arabic today. Maybe in some of the languages in India, there might be some similar sounds. In Ethiopian, in Amharic, and maybe also in some Western, African languages too. In the Western African language like Igbo and Yoruba, you have some very, very strange sounds. It sounds like they're clicking out of the tongue. But anyway, some strange sounds in all kinds of languages. But tat is not a very common sound, so everybody basically dropped it except for the Iraqi and the Temanim. Iraqis were much stronger in the pronunciation. They kept the waw and they kept a few other things. So we finished with tat. Yud, easy. Everybody has a Y. It stayed. Kaf, everybody has a ka. An L, lamed, everybody has an L. So is M, and nun, nun. So is samach, samach. Easy. Now comes the hard one. Ein. Ein. What's that? Right? Not too many languages. Arabic. Of course, the Temanim have the Ein. The Sfaradim from most of the countries remember the Ein. Very few languages remain today that have this Ein sound. Ein is a very difficult sound to make, unless you get used to from when you're young. Pei. Pei and Fei, easy, unless you're an Arab. But if you're a Farsi, no problem. There's a special letter for a P. Next, what comes after Pei? Let's see. Fei, we said. F. Sadi. Sadi is a hard one. It's not TS like the Ashkenazim say. It's a letter called Sad, both in Farsi and in Arabic, but the Persians don't pronounce it like a Sad. How do you pronounce a Sad in Farsi? That's the same thing like a Sin. And all the letters, all the words in Farsi that have a Sad are from Arabic. Because there is no Persian word with a Sad because it's not a special word. It has a similar sound, just keep the Sin. Samach. So Sad is a difficult sound, no other language. They dropped it. It's similar to S. Then we have Kuf. Kuf, that sounds like Kaf. Kuf, Kaf. No, but Kuf is Qa. It's much more heavy, only in certain Arabic lands. It's so heavy and so difficult that many in the colloquial Arabic countries just drop it. And they say, Adesh Sa'a. What hour is it now? Or Sa'a Bekam. Adesh, or it should be Qadesh. Qa. Right? It's hard. So they just say Adesh. Or people who don't know say Kadesh, but it has to be Qa, and that's a hard word. So Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, for the most part, except for the Iraqis and the Temanim, say correctly Quf. Okay, next, Reish. More or less everybody except for the Americans. This one they lost out. They have a hard time saying Ra. It's like the Spanish. Ra. Most countries in the world, most languages don't have a problem with the regular resh, trilling it. Americans have a problem. So here in this country, you won't hear Baruch or Baruch. 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 It's like somebody's trying to choose something, you know. Resh is a problem. Shin is a problem? No. Shin, most people have a shin. But for some reason, people are having a problem with the shin. You know who has a problem with the shin? Shevet Binyamin used to call it Shibolet Sibolet. The Lithuanian Jews, some of them say sin. Some Moroccan Jews say sin. Because of the language, because of the Berber influence in the Moroccan Arabic, so they have a hard time pronouncing. But otherwise, everybody knows shin. Sin is similar to samach. Taf is T. Taf without the gesh is TH. That's another hard one. And in English, thin, that's easy. But for some people coming to this country trying to say thin, including Israelis, sin. What do you say, sin? No, I didn't mean sin, I mean thin. Well, thin is a whole different word. The taf without the dot is a TH. And that also does not exist in Farsi, even though you have the three. Like the Arabic, how do you say a tha? Huh? Just like a regular ta. Just like Sephardim say, emet. Ashkenazim make it an S, MS. But Temanim know the correct sound to be a tha. And so do Iraqi Jews. So we have Iraqi and Temanim. They know what they're talking about. How about the vowels? Aleph is easy. O is a little tricky. Because even though O is O, Sephardim have made some of the O A. But Temanim, Bukharim, everybody basically knows that the kametz is O because patach means to open the mouth, liftoach, and kamatz means likmotz et asfatayim, to close or shut the lips. How about segol? Rashi calls segol a patach katan, a small patach. So the segol is a, not e, because e is tsere. Tsere is e. Segol is a. Just like in English, you have father and you have pat. The two of them are a, but they're different, right? What's the difference between father and pat? Very big difference, but there's small difference, so people forgot about it. Segol. Segol is a, it's a small patach. Chirik is e according to everybody, unless it's without the yud. If it's without the yud following it, it's a small e. Like you have in Arabic, you have an e and you have an u. You have Bismillah, okay? You have e. In English too, you have feel and fill. To fill this box, fill and feel. How do you feel? A big vowel and a short vowel. Same thing in chirik maleh, chirik chaser in Hebrew. One is e and one is e. Then we have an u, kubutz and shuruk. One is u and one is e. Like fool and full. There's a big difference between a fool and it's full, right? They both use u. Well, one uses double o, right? Same thing in Hebrew. And in Arabic, also, you have u and you have a. Right? Kul. Huh? You have a lot of such words. And finally, we have the hardest one of all, is the hulam, which even amongst the Yemenites, there's some differences. Hulam is called b'lashon hakodesh maleh pom. Maleh pom means when your mouth is full. The way it sounds is having your mouth full. The best closest pronunciation to the hulam is the French e. So the word shalom is really called in original Hebrew shalom. E. It's not o. It's definitely not oivei, oy, like the Ashkenazim. And it's not o like the Sfaradim, because o is kamatz. But it is lacking in many languages. So you see that it's difficult to pronounce. So did we cover all of them? We covered the patach, we covered the kamatz, the segol, the chirik, the shuruk and the kubutz, and the cholam. Right? We've covered all of them? Yeah. And now we've come to a last example. With this we'll finish. Look how beautiful Lashon HaKodesh is. You see the word Avedah? A lost object? Somebody lost an object. There's a mitzvah in the Torah to return it to its rightful owner. Right? Isn't that true? A lost object, mitzvah hashavat Avedah. Look at the word Avedah. The word Avedah, a lost object, is also going to tell us why somebody lost it. Why did you lose it? Everything is min hashamayim why you lost it, right? It's min hashamayim. It's going to tell us why the man lost it. Aleph, Bet, Dalet, Hey. Isn't that strange that we have all the letters of the Aleph, Bet in order except one letter is missing? Gimel. Why is Gimel missing from Aleph, Bet, Dalet, Hey? Gimel, the rabbis tell us, is Gomel Chasadim. Gimel and Dalet are next to each other because Gimel is the giver and Dal is the poor man. Remember? Dal? The Gomel has to go and give to the Dal. Mr. Aveda, you lost an object. You know why you lost it? Because somebody's going to return it to you and he's going to teach you a lesson how to be sensitive in giving to others, how to be caring. You apparently have something lacking in this midah of wanting to give and wanting to share and wanting to go out of your way. So you're going to lose it because you don't have the gimel. And somebody's going to find it to you and teach you a lesson in gemilut chasadim. The man who finds it will teach the man who lost it the act of giving. You see how beautiful this is? Lashon HaKodesh contains in it so much beauty, so much wisdom. It contains within it an entire world. Thank you.